Okay, hey guys, this is Braddifer on Reddit and Xmage and whatever else. I want to show you guys Xmage. It's a Magic the Gathering online type client. It's completely free. It's coded by someone else. I don't really know who does all the coding. All that's available on their website. Just want to show you guys how it works and how to install it. I've had some serious trial and error how to install it, so let's get to it. Just Google Xmage, simple as Xmage, and their website is xmage.de. Here it is. So let's go ahead and download the launcher. While that's downloading, let's go to our desktop and right click and do new, make a folder called Xmage All, or name it whatever you want, but this is going to be the idea. When this thing pops up, go ahead and keep this. I think you need Java to even run this in the first place. So if this has a weird icon, that's because you don't have Java. So I already have Java. So let's go ahead and hit show in folder. Here's our downloads folder, and it's this little launcher thing. I'm going to drag and drop this into the Xmage All folder instead of leaving it on the desktop. What happens is if you drop it on the desktop and start running it, it's going to start spewing out files like here, 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 and here. It's just going to start leaving files on the desktop. It's not really what you want. Let's close the downloads folder. Yeah, we don't have the website for now, so let's close that. Let's go into our folder, Xmage All. The only thing in there is the launcher, and I already have Java installed, so if you can't launch this, you need to just download the current version of Java. Let's launch this. And this is what the launcher looks like, and even have a message like, oh, it's the first time you've run it. So it has to have its own version of Java. Again, I don't really know the coding of the program. Just let it do its thing. So just hit OK, and you can see this folder just filled up with all this crap in it, right? So all we had was one launcher. Now there's 4 other files. If you installed this to your desktop, you just have like stuff all over it, and it just gets really messy. So this is our progress bar. It shouldn't really take you that long. I'm gonna go ahead and pause for now and let it download its own Java and stuff. It will also basically do the basic install of Xmage. You want to do all that in this Xmage all folder, and if later on you want to move that into your games or whatever directory, you can do all that. I've also tried to like put this on a flash drive to give it to my buddy, and that didn't work either. I had to install the whole thing from scratch. So just keep that in mind. I'm gonna go ahead and cut here and wait for this download to finish. Okay, we're back. And once the Java is done and the Xmage is done installing, I opened and closed it so the background image changed. But anyways, once that's done, ready to go, I can go ahead and launch the client. Before we do that though, if you ever need to use, you're going to be using this client, really the only button you ever press is right here, launch client. Occasionally it pops up and says, hey, it's out of date, and you just hit update, or it even updates itself. If you ever need to check, just click check versions, and usually it just says, hey, you got the right one. If you want to run like private servers and stuff, I guess that's what you can do here, but I don't really see a reason to do that. There's a public server everybody uses, and it works well. So there's one more thing I want to do. In the Xmage All folder, the one we have on the desktop right here, I want to right click and add a new folder called Images. The I is capital. Don't know if that matters, but that's what we're calling it. The problem is by default, it's going to put an Images folder, I think, in here where the client is. And the problem with that is that when you update, which is going to happen, once or twice a month, it will wipe out all the 25,000 images that you install, and so you have to waste like 30 minutes every time. So this is a nice workaround that you can browse and tell it, hey, use the images from this folder in the Xmage All folder. That way, every time it updates, you don't have to re-download all of them. Okay, so we've got our client here. Let's go ahead and launch client. And these little coding windows pop up. Alright, mine automatically logged me in. Let me go ahead and hit disconnect real quick. This is how it's going to look by default. And when you hit connect, there's a window right here. So you will need to make an account. So I'm Braddifer and a password, and then you just have to register the user. Just go through that. It's only a couple steps. And then to find the server, just hit find, and there's like a list of them. But the one everybody uses is this, well, at least for me, I'm in North America. The second one down here called WoogerWorks. And again, to find that again, just go to server, hit find, and then just drop this down and go to the second one called WoogerWorks. And then hit OK. It should just put this in there for you, and the port is 17171. I think it does all that automatically. I don't remember. So anyways, once you got your account name set up and your password and all that, I'm just going to hit connect. I have it set to do it every time, so I don't have to waste time connecting. Alright, so here's how the program should look by default for you. And one of the first things we need to do is get some images in here. If we go up to deck editor, I've got like a recorder on, so it's a little laggy, but usually it's quite fast. We start clicking on cards here. In the bottom left, all the cards are empty. So what we need to do is download card images. But we need to tell the program where we want the card images to go. Otherwise, it's going to try to go back to the default spot. Let's go to Preferences, go over to Images, and then by default, it has this thing here that's checked. It says by default use whatever this location is, and it's not great. So let's uncheck that, and let's browse for a new one. Just hit the Home button, go to our desktop, and hit the Xmage All folder. Bam, double click in here, and then you can right click and you can make an Images folder if you didn't, but I did. So let's just click Images because that's the folder we made specifically for this. Hit Open, and then hit Save. Great. So now we have a place where the images are going to be stored in the right spot. How do you download the images? It may already ask you this, but let's assume that it doesn't. We need to go up here to the top right where it says the word images. Click that. It looks like it's cut off a little bit by my recording software here, but you can actually see the word images. So that's going to load up, and I've tested this a couple times. And once it does load up, there's 4 different websites which you'll use to download all like 26,000 cards. Always start with the wizards.com one. So click that, hit start download, and basically what it's going to do is going to go through in there and line up a bunch of folders and set names and all this stuff. There's like 26,000 images, so it's probably going to take you 20 or 30 minutes depending on your internet speed. So we'll take a look real quick just to make sure it is going in the right folder. Open up Xmage All, jump into images, and we see stuff being created. Good, okay, so we can see it's making folders. I don't really know what those sets are because I didn't really play that long. But anyways, they're making that. And let's just close that. And we've got another 25,000 to go. So I'm just going to cut and we'll see you soon. Alright, we're back. So it looks like it has about 2,000 cards left that it didn't download. And so basically what we do is we just choose another source. So we already had Wizards. Let's try the next one up. And just hit start download. And if we go to that folder, if you want to get an idea, show the desktop real quick. Go to Xmage, Images, and here it is. So there's lots of stuff in here, and if you jump into any random one, you can kind of see there's lots of pictures in here. I'm not going to open the picture up, but that's how it works, in case you didn't know. And if you ever wanted to alter the files, if you're one of those guys that likes to upload your own pictures of, like, Lion King for Savannah Lions or whatever, I'm sure you can do that in there somehow. You'd probably need to match the dimensions perfectly or something. I think there's a thread I think there's a thread somewhere on Reddit or MTG Salvation or something. If you're into that, go check it out. So basically just go through and do this on each little website until it gets most of them. So it's got a couple left. Let's go to Mythic Spoiler, hit start download. Wizards had most of them though, and you need to go to Wizards first. So if you're watching this video, go to Wizards first. Do not jump to any other one. You have to do that, otherwise you'll waste your time. So that's all I can say. Alright, and let's go down to tokens. Finish up there. Okay, looks like tokens is done. So there's 1,400 cards remaining. I don't know where all those cards are. I don't know which ones they are or why it won't download them. I just simply don't know. So let's hit close. And if we click on some of these, we can see we now have images of things. Well, you won't notice it yet, but what we need to do is download the symbols. So let's go over here to the top right and hit symbols. You want to download these symbols? Yes. And I think it puts these in the image folder, so you shouldn't have to re-download these every time it updates. Okay, so you want to download a deck. Let's start with this. Let's just go into Chrome. Alright. And let's use a website like MTG Goldfish. It's probably the best Magic website I've ever seen. It's very, very convenient. And let's go to decks, metagame, and maybe go to Legacy for this example. And let's see, alright, which deck won a recent event? Or, our Star City game. Let's see, Delver did good. What's the worst deck we can find here? Eldrazi, there we go. So let's try the Eldrazi deck out. So we're like, oh god, it's horrible, it's taking over every format. Let's give it a try, just see how it works. The deck's already here. You can just hit download, and it should download it as a text file. Other websites, they do have this feature, but some of them download it as an MTGO deck, not a text file. So if I open up this folder and double-click this, this is what the deck downloads as, and that's kind of what you need it as. If you just have an MTGO deck, like, you know, from your MTGO account, it doesn't quite work. And so this is just the thing by default. It's already saved. Let me close this. Let's go show in folder. Keep this folder up. And for now, just for this example, let's let's create a folder called MTG Xmage Decks. You can keep it in here if you want. In fact, I will do that. I'm going to go ahead and put this in my Xmage All folder just to keep everything in here. Alright, so here's our deck, Colors Eldrazi. I'm going to drag that into MTG Xmage Decks. Cool. And so now if I want to go to Deck Editor, Import, because what we want to do is we want to import the deck. So boom, Import, and let's browse. Let's bring this up so you can see better. Hit the Home button to go to Desktop. I'm just going to click anything, press X. There we go, Xmage All. Browse to here, find the decks folder, double click that. Oops. There it is, there's the deck. Let's click it once and hit open. Now, it's a 75 card deck list. It didn't put the sideboard cards in the side, right? See how we have 75 cards here for our deck list size? So what we need to do is, oh gosh, I have a lot of stuff open. Okay, go back to Xmage, open the decks thing. This is just a text file, I should be able to edit this. Double click this. See right here where the sideboard is separated? Do exactly this. Hit enter once, and then sideboard. S is capital. I don't know if that matters. And then file, save, then close that. Re-import it. Click it again. Import. It should be imported in the last spot that you browse to. Now the sideboard's sorted in the right spot. What a pain in the butt it is to have to move that every time. To have to go through and, you know, like All's Dust was in the main board. How you move things over. There's just a couple buttons over here. So let's say I wanted to add, I don't know, Trinisphere for whatever reason. So Trinisphere is the card I want, so just find a version, and you can just hit this green button right here, which will add it to the main deck. See how it just added? I can double click it. That's going to remove it completely. I can also, instead of hitting the green one, I can hit the yellow and green one. That will immediately add it to the sideboard, so it's going right there. And if I double click it, it just removes it at all. However, if I have something in the main board that I want in the sideboard, hold Alt and double click. So it's Alt and double click. And I can move from main board to sideboard. And the same thing back. If I want to move All's Dust to the main board, hold Alt, double click. There you go. That's how you move things from main board to sideboard. Let's say I like this. It's not ready to go yet. You need to save it. So up here, just hit save. And then it gives you, you can name the deck. So I'm going to go browse back again, Xmage All, go to the decks, and let's name it. Let's go Leg for Legacy, and we'll call this Colorless Eldrazi Jerry T. Alright, hit save. There's the deck for now. If I want to go play it, I just go up to Games. Oh yeah, there's also sorting. You can sort the deck. That's something useful to have. I usually sort by casting cost. If you want to go by color, that's fine. May not be the best to sort this colorless deck by color though, right? So let's just keep it on cost. Same thing for the sideboard. It's better to keep them at the same thing. Both costs, usually. I guess you can also turn it off piles and do it that way, but God, who would do that? I also wanted to show you how to put in the basic lands that are full art, in case that's something you're into. In this case, I've hit Load, Modern, and then went to Blue Moon, hit Open. And there's a bunch of islands in the deck, so just type in Island in the search bar. Easiest thing to do, and then go to Set. Sort it by the set. It's the easiest way to do it. And let's say I want the unhinged ones. It's going by the set name, so just scroll and look for UNH, unhinged. And then I would just get rid of all the islands, just double click one by one until there are no islands left, and then just click the green button or double click to add islands into the deck until you have back to 60 cards. And save it here. And then if it's in Legacy or whatever, make sure you save it in the other folder that has a copy of it. If I wanted to start my own game, I'd just do match. And it already has Legacy. I'm going to get rid of Hey Farthiad. So it's just blank. And no password. Let's take that. That was loud. And let's go in here, these little triple dots. We want to browse for our deck. So again, click the home button, Xmage All, Xmage Decks. You don't have to browse all the time for this stuff. It usually remembers where you put it. So that's kind of why we put everything on the desktop. You can move everything once it's installed. So click the deck, hit select deck. We can see right here it's loaded the right one. It's easy to load the wrong deck, so make sure you look before you start. And then hit OK. There's our queue, and now you can see up here. Here's our game right here. Constructed Legacy, there's no name because we left it blank. Here's Bradifer, and it's blanked out. If people want to join, they just click join, and then they browse for a deck. So I'm going to cancel this and show you. If you want to join someone else's game, you just, this guy wants to play standard. So let's hit join, and click our deck, and hit select deck. Hit OK, and it says, hey, you cannot play standard, you have all these illegal legacy cards in it. But that's how you would do it, and it would just load the game up. Okay, I've showed you the basics to how to get the thing running and how to make a deck, but I already went ahead and kind of put a whole bunch of decks in this folder, and they're already pre-imported with the sideboards correct and all that, so let's save everybody a bunch of time and work on getting that ready for you to play. So let's go to Reddit, Xmage. That's where I made the thread for it. Open that up. And let's do Control F for decks. Okay, here it is. It's called I uploaded a folder full of ready to play meta decks. Boom, click that. And I have a Dropbox link here. Let's open that up in a new tab. And that should open up here. And in the top right, the download button should appear when it's ready. Here it is, download. Open this folder up for the downloads, or hit Control J to open this up. So here it is. You're going to use something to unzip it with. I think most Windows computers have it by default now, or you can just download 7-zip for free. Let's move all these. In fact, you can just close that stuff. It doesn't need to be here. Alright, here's the thing. We have this thing in here called MTG Xmage decks, which has this Jerry colorless Eldrazi in it. This is basically just full of decks. So I'm just going to right click and cut this and paste here. It's going to say, do you want to merge? Yeah, I want to merge. Hooray, it's merging. This is just full of decks. Simple as that. A whole bunch of legacy decks, modern decks. I don't play standard, so there's not really any standard decks in there. Okay. Sure. Alright, so we can close this now. So this is, again, this is our Xmage all folder. Open that back up. And now I have the MTG Xmage decks. If I click in here, now we've got multiple formats. We have the one from Jerry still in here, but we have all these other ones too. So let's just start with like Popper. This is how I decided to do this. I had a bunch of lists that I imported from the website, the MTG Goldfish website, and these are just the lists. You can double click, and by default they don't have the sideboard thing. Remember we went over that already? So I went through and added that, and then just hit File Save, closed it. So this is all the actual default text lists. In case you want to import these into Magic Online, then they're already here. You know, if you edit the deck, if you change the deck on Xmage, it's not going to change the text list, but it's a starting point. These are the decks that you can load into Xmage, and they're already ready. Their sideboards are already ready to go, imported. So these are all done as far as I know. I made a note. Specifically, Popper is a little messed up here. They don't have a couple of cards that are used a lot, like Oubliette for black or Standard Bearer for white decks. They're just hard to code, so they're not in the game yet. Okay, let's go to modern. There's plenty of modern decks in here. Bunch of decks. It's the same thing here, all the text dudes. Okay, and then there's Commander, and then Legacy. I decided to make this one a lot bigger. There's all these decks here. I just basically copied every deck. So there's about 60 decks in here. I also made a separate folder for each one, like Control, Combo, or Aggro, Midrange, Tempo. And if we go into Control here, we can see there's Loam, Enchantress, Esper, Stoneblade, Deathblade, Miracles, Lands, all that stuff. These are all control decks, and so these are, at least, my opinion. I don't really want to argue about that. Just, if you don't like it, move it. Don't complain to me. So it's Control, Combo, and Aggro. And then Aggro, I actually made an Eldrazi folder because there's so many of them. So what we can do here is this one we had of Jerry earlier. Let's right-click this and cut. Go to Legacy, go to Aggro, go to Eldrazi, and then paste this list in here. And go back to the decks. Now we have this text version of it. So let's just cut that, go to Legacy, and go to the Z Old folder with all the text versions. And let's just paste that in here. Great. Now we have a place to reference these in case we want to look at the default, the old list, or bring them into MTGO. And this is still in the folder. So as far as playing in here, just go to Deck Editor. And if you want to edit the deck or look at it for whatever reason, it's very simple. Just click Load, and it'll ask you to browse Xmage All and MTG Xmage Decks. Here it is. Here's all the stuff. Let's go to Legacy, because why not? And let's look at, so the Legacy folder, I just put everything in there and then also made duplicates and put it in these other folders, just so if you're like, God, why is the same deck in here like multiple times? That's why. Let's go to Reanimator. Sure. Alright, we can see all of our images loaded. And if you're playing a version, you're like, hey man, I don't like Sire of Insanity. Like, cool. Well, get rid of it. Get rid of Sire of Insanity and put in, I don't know, the fourth Grizzle brand or something. Okay, that looks like a promo version, and the picture's not loaded, but here's the original. So just click, boom, and you can just hit save. And the name's already here. Then you just hit save here, and then you go into combo, and then hit save again, because there's 2 copies of the deck. Remember, so just keep that in mind. But I don't really like that change. What else can we look at? We can look at Popper for a second. I want to show you guys that one, just in case. Let's go to Stompy. That's a good example. So the Stompy deck in Popper, there's a couple cards like River Boa. So if I type in River Boa, this only matters in Popper that much. So this game is not like Magic Online, where it knows that, hey, River Boa was once printed as a common right here. You can see the white symbol was a common, but every other time it was an uncommon, hence all the silver symbols. Well, in Magic Online, they know that all River Boas are legal in Popper. It doesn't matter which card you have. But in this program, it doesn't. You have to have this common version of River Boa. So here they have the River Boas here. And if we go over to, scroll down to Rancor, here it is. Well, Rancor has some uncommon versions as well. So here is an uncommon version of Rancor. Here's a common. By default, I think the program it pulls in the most recent version, which is, I guess, Magic M13. And I had to take all those versions out and then come in and add this version that says common on it. Any of these would have done the job. If you're loading Popper decks and it won't let you play, it's because by default the import system pulled in the uncommon version. That's just how it works. Another thing you want to do, whether you're new to Magic Online or not, it's very helpful. Go to Preferences. This helps set all your phases and priorities. Let's go to Phase and Priorities. And by default, these two here, the two that are one from the bottom, it's pass priority automatically after you put a spell, and pass priority automatically after you put an activated ability on the stack, like activating Mother of Runes or a fetch land. These are not checked by default. So what that means is this one is pass priority after you put a spell. Generally, in most games of Magic, you almost always want to pass. I'm going to lightning bolt your guy, and then it gives them a chance to counterspell or whatever. You want to, most of the time, have this checked for both of these. What that'll do is just say lightning bolt, and then it passes priority to them to counter, and if they do nothing, the lightning bolt resolves. The only time you want to take these off is if you're playing a deck, take a modern deck, for example, with remands and cryptic commands. If you ever want to play a spell and then immediately counter your own spell to put cards in the graveyard, defeat Tarmogoyf, or whatever's going on, then you'd want to uncheck these so that way you can have extra steps. But if you don't uncheck these, what happens is every time you cast a spell, you're going to go lightning bolt, and then it's going to say you have to hit OK so that you pass lightning bolt priority to them to respond to a lightning bolt. It just adds literally twice as many clicks. You have to respond to every single one of your spells twice. It's kind of annoying. Same thing with extra fetches or activated abilities like equipment. It just gives you all these extra steps. So if you're a veteran Magic player, you probably don't really need to know that anyways. You already know that. But if you're new to this program, I highly recommend you go to Phases and Priorities and uncheck these two that are, or check these two that are one from the bottom. It's very annoying. There's also, here's the stacks up here. You can kind of set these however you'd like. This just goes by preference. For me, my own preference, I just have it set to my own main phase, the end of combat phase, and the main phase. If you're playing the deck with Brainstorms and you want to upkeep Brainstormer or whatever, you want to fetch on your upkeep, that's fine. I just change it in the game if I need to change anything. Same thing if I have Vendilion Click, I want to do it on their turn. I would just open this up and then go over here to opponent's turn and hit a check for their draw step. I'd do this at the while I'm waiting to play my last land or whatever the deal is. And then before it's their turn, I would come in here and set these phases right. But by default, I don't want to have to stop in their draw step every time. It's a waste of both players' clock. I think there is sounds too by default. I think all this stuff is checked, and it has all those goofy MTGO style sounds, but that stuff's super annoying, so I just turn all those off. Here's another thing you can do that I just remembered. You can whisper in this game. The whole chat, there is no friends system. This is just, these are all the users that are online. And let's say you have a buddy like, I'll just whisper myself in this case. I'm Bradford. What you do is type /W and then space their name, and then it has to be exact. The caps matter. So in this case, the B in Bradford would matter. And I could say, hey, duder, and I get the whisper for myself. If you're going to be whispering your friend a lot, I recommend typing this in and then copying it, just Control-C. And you can just paste it a whole bunch, right? So you can say, you can just paste it and say, hey man, how's your river boa? Okay, so that works for now. That's how you whisper people. You can also start tournaments, which in most cases is a draft. So what is all that? What I would do here is I would just say something like Legacy Cube. And we would switch this over to tournament type. You need to switch that first. So let's go with Booster Draft Swiss Cube or just Booster Draft Elimination Cube. Most of the games you're going to run on here, you just want to run Elimination. There's no prize, so playing Swift is like just for funsies. And if your deck kind of stinks, then it's really not that fun. So most people play Booster Draft Elimination Cube for Cube. Then you actually get to pick the cube. The Popper Cube is actually really fun. I mean, I've never played Popper Cube before. It's so different than your traditional Legacy Cube. I really recommend trying it out. But a big issue on Xmage is that there's simply not enough players that want to do a lot of cubes. They fire, but they fire slowly, and it's hard to get 8 people. And so if you try to run a Popper Cube with 8 people, it's very unlikely to get it to fire. So I usually recommend going with let's go with like Legacy MTGO Legacy Cube January 2016. All right, I'd recommend 6 players, even though it's not how a cube's supposed to be run. At 4 players, the cube is terrible because you just keep rotating through the same packs. So like you can't have a very good green deck with there's only 4 packs with the green cards. The red deck ends up being like 2 different colors, like the terrible red-white aggro deck, because there's not enough cards. There's only 4 packs. Or, 4 players worth of packs, which is like, what, 12? So I recommend 6. If there's a lot of people on, hey, go up to 8, go for it. I'm all for the 8-man one, but most people will join and they'll see you only have 3 or 4 people, then they'll just leave, and you'll sit at 3 or 4 people for like 20 minutes. If you're sitting at an 8-man. All this stuff seems fine. You might want to bump the time limit up to like 30 minutes. Another thing I thought of is if you're trying to host Commander games, there's some wonky rules in this game. So if we go to New Match and we want to host game type, let's drop down to Commander, like free-for-all. And you want to do like a 4-player Commander thing. By default, range of influence is set to 1. What that means is like if there's 4 of you, the guy who's diagonally across from the other one they can't cast cards that interact with each other. Like you can't Oblivion Ring the other dude's stuff. So you need to set range of influence to all. And I think most Commander games have at least 1 free mulligan, and then have a time limit of like 60 minutes. And make sure attack you can attack everyone. Just one little thing in there in case you're a Commander player and you're like really annoyed because it ruins your first match and you have to ask people about it. It's just annoying. I think that about covers it. I know it's kind of long, but I wanted to give you everything that would really get you in there and just get your plan rather than trying to figure out all the technical things to it. If you have any questions on why certain cards aren't in it, or trying to figure out little glitches or why certain things won't work, I would recommend posting it on Reddit or on their official forums rather than on this video. I don't think it'll get answered on this video. If you guys ever want to play with me, I mostly play Legacy now. I kind of stopped playing Modern because that the Eldrazi thing was terrible. Started Legacy a couple weeks ago, and I thought it was like, man, it's like Modern, but like 3 or 4 times better. It's just like straight up better. Anyways, I play a lot of Legacy now. Starting with this program, it's great. I think it's a really great tool that helps you test decks before you go buy them on Magic Online. Leagues are up now for Legacy and everything, so if you really want to get some real competition, better players are usually on Magic Online or in paper, but it's a neat way to really test things before you go buy them. That's what I've been using it for, at least. Anyways, I'm Bradford on Reddit and Xmage, and I'll see you guys around.